Welcome to simplifying complex fractions. So we'll just jump right into it. So complex fractions just means that there's a fraction divided by another fraction. So it's really the same thing as you did with division, just written in a little different way. So you have a fraction, you're dividing by another fraction. And usually, if I erase this, you can see the bigger fraction bar is where your division is. Because technically each fraction has a division in it, so the bigger fraction bar, the longer one, is where you're going to have the divide. So there's one way to do this, is we can rewrite this as, I'm just going to draw an arrow, 4 over x, and then divided by 2/3. And so this fraction becomes a division, and when you have division of two fractions, you're going to keep the first fraction the way it is, change it to a multiplication, and flip the second. With multiplication problems, we have much easier time solving them. So we have all monomials in the numerators and denominators, so any numerator can cancel with any denominator. So 4 over 2. If you prefer to multiply straight across, like 4 times 3 is 12 and 2 times x is x, and you do 12 over x, or 12 over 2, you can do it that way. You can simplify that way. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it right now. But otherwise, 4 over 2 is 2 over 1. It's the only thing in the numerator and denominator I can simplify. So you have 2 times 3 is 6 over x. That's your final answer. This was a pretty simple problem. Let's get to a little bit more complex problem. So example 2, we have a fraction subtracting another fraction, all divided by a fraction. It's a little different than 1. We have another fraction introduced. And so in example 2, what you're going to do is this numerator is we're going to combine these like terms. So I'm going to do that just separately. So x divided by 4 minus x squared divided by 16. And we got to make this one fraction because we need to have a fraction divided by another fraction. So how do you combine fractions? You need to have like denominators. It's always basic rules. So I'm going to multiply the first fraction by 4 because 4 times 4 is 16, and this denominator is already at 16. So when we do that, we're going to get 4 times x, so multiply the numerator, over 16 minus x squared over 16. And that's going to equal, so now like denominators, let's combine the numerators then. We have 4x minus x squared over 16. You can look to simplify here if you had something to simplify. All three terms do not have anything in common, so I really wouldn't simplify anything. Factor in the numerator, you could factor an x out, but that does not cancel. There's no x in the denominator. So we're going to take this answer here, and it's not our final answer, this is just part of the way through. We're going to take that, and we're going to replace the numerator over here. So I'm going to rewrite it as 4x minus x squared over 16. And there's the big division here. So that's where it's going to be divided by x plus 2 over 4. So now we know with division, we have to keep it, change it, flip it. So 4x minus x squared over 16 times 4 over x minus 2 plus 2. And we look to see now if we can factor anything. I knew this numerator right here I can factor. So I'll factor out an x, and we're left with 4 minus x denominators, 16, monomials, don't factor them. 4 and x plus 2 is already, there's no factors. It's already a factor by itself. Looking at numerators and denominators, monomials can divide by monomials, so 4/16. Any numerator can simplify with any denominator. And there's nothing else. This is a negative x plus 4, x plus 2, not the same thing, not the same binomial. We have x is a monomial. There's no monomial x's in the denominator. So then we just multiply straight across. You can multiply out the numerator if you'd like. I don't expect you to do that. And then the same thing with the denominator. I keep them in factored form, but you could multiply it out if you like. This is your final answer. Okay, let's move on to the next problem. Example 3. We have, again, a fraction adding another fraction all over 3, just 3. So this is kind of strange. We're going to start out the same way. The big fraction, the division, is right here. So you can look at it as like 3/1. So there's your fraction on the bottom. So the numerator, I want to look at the numerator, and I got to get this numerator combined as one fraction. So let's do that separately. So x minus 6 over 18 plus 9 over x minus 6. I try to factor the denominator, but there's no factors that will help me. 18 is a monomial and x minus 6 is already factored. So getting like denominators, this is going to could get ugly. Multiply the first denominator by 18. So then both denominators have a commonality of 18. And the first fraction to get, I need to have an x minus 6 in that denominator. So I need to multiply numerator and denominator by x minus 6. Alright, so working this out, I have an x minus 6 times x minus 6. So you gotta do x times x times negative 6, negative 6 times x, negative 6 times negative 6. So this is FOIL, so x squared minus 12x plus 36 all over, and I don't multiply out the denominators ever. Multiplying out the denominators just takes extra time that's not needed. And then we do 9 times 18, which is 162. And again, don't multiply out the denominator. I'm just going to put the 18 first, because with monomials, you usually write those before the binomials. And then we need to combine these. We have like denominators, so combine the numerators. X squared minus 12x. 36 plus 62 is 198. And all of that is over 18 times x minus 6. So that needs to get then replaced. This here needs to replace the numerator. So keep going. We have x squared minus 12x minus 198 all over 18 times x minus 6. And then this is the big division here, so you multiply by the reciprocal 1 over 3. So now I look at, can I factor any parts of the numerators or denominators? So I'm going to look at x squared minus 12x minus 198. I see that I made a mistake, so that should be on positive, so plus 198. So then I look at, is there something that multiplies to 198 that adds up to negative 12, because the a term is 1 and there isn't. There's nothing that'll do that. So there's nothing numerator and denominator that can get simplified. So our final answer, I'm just going to multiply straight across. 1 times a trinomial with the trinomial x squared minus 12x plus 198 all over, and I actually won't even multiply, well, I'll multiply the monomials. 3 times 18 is 54, x minus 6. And that's my final answer. Nothing can be simplified with it. We tried factoring the numerator to simplify. That's why we would try to simplify or factor this numerator to see if there was like an x minus 6 that I could cancel out, but there wasn't. All right, come to class with any questions. Thanks.